Hey everybody, this is Matthew Soltesiak and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast. Using my sportscasting background, I speak with a variety of guests and interview key players to gain more insight on what makes this team go. As the Detroit Lions enter a new gritty era, we'll look beyond just the kneecaps when it comes to the analysis. Welcome to another episode. In this episode, we take a look back at the Detroit Lions' Week 13 victory against the New Orleans Saints. We discussed the 33-28 win. We're going to touch on what went well, pivotal moments in this game, concerns and takeaways, as there are some, as well as any major storylines coming out of this contest. Let's get to it, Lions fans.
Hey everyone, this is Lomas Brown, and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast.
I'm joined today by James Cook, senior sports writer for the Traverse City Record Eagle. You can also hear him on the Get Around podcast. That drops on Mondays. James, as always, it's good to have you here to talk Lions after a game. It's even better after a victory.
Always better after a win.
Well, as we get into it, I want to remind listeners, please hit the subscribe or the like button. That is helping us build momentum. Of course, we all know the Lions win on the road, 33-28. Here's what Coach Dan Campbell had to say right after the game.
And they came out and fought. And I love the way we came out early in this game. And, and then they made some adjustments. Then we had to make some adjustments. And I was proud of our defense getting 2 takeaways. I thought Sam Laporta, man, was huge today for us. I thought he was he really, really made some huge plays. I thought we did a great job taking care of the football, got 2 takeaways on defense. That's got to be our recipe. And I thought, Goff there at the end, that was a critical pass, and Reynolds on the catch. So just a number of things, not easy. It's not easy to win. But here we go, man. We got 9 wins with 5 to go.
So, James, this looked like it was going to be easy early, and then things got uneasy as the game went on. But ultimately, we got the win down in the Big Easy, which wasn't easy. And yeah, I'm pretty corny with all that. But James, how are you feeling after this game?
A win's a win. So you take that. I like the start. They got off to a nice, fast start, which was nice to see after kind of being pretty slow fairly recently, quite often. So it's nice to see that. And then they kind of took their foot off the gas, which I never like in the NFL. And because it usually results in what happened in the game is that you let the other team back in the game. But then they were able to pull it out. So it is what it is. It's a win.
Well, let's start with what you talked about first, because that's something I think we all like. We go to what we liked in this game, and the Lions jumped out to a 21-0 lead. I mean, that was nice, right? That first drive, on 3rd down and 7, they run the ball for a first down. That was amazing. I love it when they can do that, because a lot of teams in the NFL become one-dimensional and are going to pass in that situation. They had a great start to the game, offense and defense. It was nice to jump out to that 21-0 lead.
Yeah, it was great to see that. The running game really, I think, set that up. They had just with Montgomery and Gibbs both running the ball effectively and well, and then for some reason later on in the game they decided to kind of go away from that.
Yeah, we're going to get to that because that was a little bit puzzling. But early on, when they're running like that, you got the ground game going, but then Laporta and St. Brown had some nice touchdown catches, and you got to believe that running game early was helping the passing game. So that was a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just wondering if maybe that they made some kind of change in their defense that Ben Johnson didn't like, and decided that he would take whatever else they were giving him, because if they were going to concentrate on the run, they got to give up something somewhere else. So maybe that was it. And and Goff had a pretty efficient game after that slow start with the bad fumble on the first play, which had me just rolling my eyes after the last 2 games, after 6 turnovers in the last 2 games. So, but after that, he got out pretty well and was pretty efficient. And like I said, Laporta was just dynamite today.
Yeah. Well, back to the running part a moment. Campbell came out and said they were intentional to start that way. That was their plan. They wanted to establish the run. But like you said, you know, the Saints have a good defense, and they were going to probably change something up to try and slow some of that down. Perhaps, maybe that's why that you saw adjustments going. But it was a surprise. Yeah, when that first fumble happened, I'm like, oh no, this can't be good. We got it back. I mean, hey, that fumble for us worked out a lot better than the fumble did for the Saints on their snap later in the game. So that goes right into turnovers. You know, the Lions had no turnovers. I mean, almost had one on that first play, but zero turnovers, and we actually got some takeaways. So that's a really good feeling.
Yeah, a couple of those takeaways were a little fortuitous and everything, but hey, winning the turnover battle is winning the turnover battle. So, getting that fumble, I mean, recovering the car fumble, getting that interception, those were both, good kind of turning points in the game. Not necessarily turning points, but things that really, I think, helped them pull this game out.
Well, after that, based on that catch that Chris Olave, I believe it was a Chris Olave catch that should have been intercepted, but got tipped, and the Saints got a big first down and stuff. That's so fortuitous. I will not apologize for either of these turnovers.
Completely. Yeah, I think it was what Branch tipped that, but I think that Jacobs was pretty much in position to pick that pass off.
And maybe even take it for a touchdown. I mean, he was right in position. You're right. Well, Taysom Hill was there, so I don't know what would have happened, but yeah. So those takeaways were good, though. It's got to feel good to finally get some because it feels like we've been lacking those for a little bit.
Yeah, those big plays are momentum turners or killers, depending on which side of it you're on. And they definitely, I think they turned the one right into a touchdown.
Yeah,
Which
that
was
was Yeah, that was on the Superman play, if you want to call it that, where Jamison Williams leapt into the end zone with a Superman type leap. And I want to talk about that play because I love that play, not just because JMO showed his speed off, but there were three offensive linemen downfield blocking on that play. Oh, and Laporta was
and Goff.
blocking somebody, and Goff went and helped Laporta continue to block to hold it even that much longer. I mean, that was the Lions doing what the Lions do, which is team effort and helping the other guy out.
Yeah, Jared Goff trying to do his best Craig Reynolds from the preseason. Yeah, I was joking with some friends of mine that I was watching the game with. We were trying to come up with headlines if that was the photo, of Jamison Williams jumping into the end zone like that, and I came up with Flyer de Lis instead of the Fleur de Lis, which is the logo that they have on their helmet.
Okay, I like that.
A little obscure, but
you tied it back together. It is an accurate reference. That was just an amazing play, and how quickly you saw him running past people. It was like, yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, the speed on that play was just amazing, and the misdirection on that play too. I mean, a fake handoff to Montgomery and then a double reverse. I mean, that just caught that defense flat-footed, and then with Williams' speed, there was no chance.
Now, the Lions didn't have a lot of long fields in this game. They didn't have to have a lot of long drives. And so that if you look at the passing numbers, Goff had 213 yards, not a ton, but the other thing is, no receiver had more than 2 receptions in the game, nor did any running back. Fortunately, there was a tight end who had quite the presence, and Sam Laporta had 9 catches, 140 yards, and a touchdown. And that guy was 9 for 9. And he was on, and not like he hasn't been on before, but he, again, had a big game. He's been quieter for a few weeks, and he reminded everybody of the type of talent he is.
Yeah, I saw a stat during the game that the Lions tweeted out about how many 5+ catch games he's had this season, and it's second all time among NFL tight end rookies. So getting in pretty good company. I think the one who might be ahead of him is Keith Jackson, but I'm not positive on that.
It is Keith Jackson. We did a thing a couple weeks back where we looked at the all time receptions, the all time yards for rookie tight ends, and Laporta was on pace to come close to some of those. I believe Ditka had the most yards for a tight end as a rookie. But I also started thinking, well, the Lions have so many different weapons. There's a chance he might not get there. But you have a game like this, and suddenly everything's different again. And he was already, trending in that way of having the most receptions. But man, talk about sure-handedness and making some very timely big catches too.
Yeah, huge third down catches and just ones that extended drives led to scores. So it just a massive touchdown or just a massive game for him in general. Um, we started joking and making comparisons to Travis Kelce and that he was going to be coming after Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but his game might be getting mentioned in the same realms as Travis Kelce's. I mean, what we're seeing out of Sam Laporta, we haven't seen out of rookie tight ends historically. I know Kyle Pitts had a pretty good rookie season, but I'm just thrilled with what we're seeing out of Laporta. This is the type of tight end the Lions have been looking for probably since Dave Sloan or something like that.
Yeah, historically, it's got to be one of the Lions' best tight end seasons in multiple decades. I mean, yeah, this is something that they wanted out of guys like Sloan and Pettigrew and Hawkinson, but never really got.
You can throw Eric
So
Ebron in there too if you want to.
you can.
So another thing I want to point out, something I liked in this game, I want to give a shout out to undrafted free agent Trevor Nowaski out of Saginaw Valley State. He made his NFL debut in this game. He's a linebacker. The Lions being short Anzalone, he got promoted up. It gave Campbell and Barnes more time on their positions. Same for Jalen Reeves-Maben. So Nowaski played on special teams. I saw him in there early on a defensive play to when the Saints were punting, and he got pretty close to the punter. But I didn't catch him where else he was on special teams during the game. But pretty exciting moment for the youngster, and a local Michigan guy. So that's a really exciting story right there to be following, and very happy for him.
Yeah, another guy that made his debut for the Lions who kind of made a pretty good impact was Bruce Irvin.
You gotta like that impact too. I mean, he did get a sack.
He got a sack. I mean, really, he got two. That he got the roughing the passer on the other one.
Yeah.
That's one of those ones where it's like, okay, yeah, that's roughing the passer, but like, what was he supposed to do there? That's the way the angle that he was coming in. I don't know what else he's supposed to do.
It's a tough one because you're right. You're not going to slow up and let him complete the pass. You got to hit him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where that does meet the letter of the thing. The intention
it's
I don't
the
think
landing
was
on him
there.
with the weight. It's the landing on him with your full weight and everything like that. But that's just a result in that play of him coming straight on to Carr. And hopefully Carr's all right too, because this is his second at least concussion this season. I mean, he got one when he played in the Packers game earlier this year too, and missed a game after that. So
yeah, hopefully Carr is okay. You never like to see that happen. And you felt bad when you saw Carr down. Again, it's one of those things where I think it's just a victim of circumstance, so to speak, with the way the angles were and what happened. But I did like seeing that, Irvin was in there and making some plays. So I guess anything you want to touch on before we switch over to what we didn't like or any concerns we had?
let me look at my list of positives here. Yeah, Jonah Jackson came back. Really helped that run game early on before they kind of changed gears and went away from that. But
for sure.
And Quinton Bohannon.
Yeah, making a presence felt.
Looks like he is going to be a piece of that defensive line rotation, which is probably by Isaiah Buggs. I mean,
there were a few healthy scratches there, so I don't know.
You held out hope that maybe Buggs was going to be a guy that they would just plug in against certain teams based on matchups or whatever, but it seems now that it's Bohannon.
Yeah, that'll be something worth keeping an eye on for sure. So let's talk about our concerns and what we didn't like. I think the big thing is the Saints made a big comeback. The Lions were up 21-0, but then the Saints came back. They made it a 24-21 game. Here's what Coach Campbell said about jumping out to that lead.
No, you look, it's like, man, how often do you just get to come out and it's like, man, bam, within whatever that was, 7 or 8 minutes, you're up 21-0. We had some things that we wanted to do, particularly offensively and defensively for that matter, and we had a good feel of it, and they made some adjustments. They made some adjustments, and which we thought they would, and so. Then it comes down to just, it's one player here, one player there, we're an inch away from breaking another one. So it's just, man, it was a chess game going on, Look, Diego's, he's a good defensive coach now, and those guys played hard. It's a prideful team. So, look, it wasn't ideal. You don't always want it to be that way, but my God, man, to be able to hang in there and, they're able to come back and we just answer back and then we're able to close it out. I mean, it's a hell of a win now. I'm not going to take that away from us.
So James, you kind of feel like that game was a roller coaster of emotions that some Lions fans have been feeling throughout this season. How did you feel about giving up that lead and how were you feeling?
Yeah, I'm trying not to overreact too much. I mean, every team during the course of an NFL season is going to go through some lulls. And have a little stretch where they have 1 or 2 games where they just don't come out and dominate teams the way they should. And the last 2 weeks have been that for the Lions. You could even say the last 4, sort of. But offensively, I'm not too worried. Defensively, I am. I hope they can find some more pieces. I hope that maybe Bruce Irvin gives them that secondary pass rusher they need to take some pressure off of Hutchinson. You saw Okwara got home once in this game, so maybe he gets on track. The DBs played pretty well in this game overall. I mean, Olave is just a really, really good receiver in the NFL. A top 15 type wide receiver in the NFL. So he's going to get his, but they pretty much shut down everybody else.
Yeah, and I said they gave up the lead. Well, they didn't give up the lead, right? They never lost the lead, but the lead shrunk down to 3 points. And so I guess if I was to mention something that was good is even though that shrunk down, they didn't actually give up the lead and they never trailed. But yeah, you're early on, you're like, we are up 21-0. This is rolling. And that's where, like you said, you don't want to take your foot off the gas. I'm not saying that's what they did, but you're hoping that you keep packing some more points on there. Like that field goal before halftime, I'm like, we need some more points before halftime. Being up 24-7 made me feel a lot better, especially knowing the way the third quarters have often started for us, and it didn't start again well either. But you know what? Again, we never surrendered the lead, and that was good. And like you said, there are those times where you're up and down and we're still figuring things out. When I say figuring things out, I mean, there's always adjustments through a season. You're not the same team the second or third week as you are the 10th. And then the 15th to 17th, you're probably different as well for a variety of reasons. But one thing that really does concern me is Frank Ragnow got injured. And that was like, great. We had a quarter and a half with the offensive line again. And then he goes down. So that makes me nervous.
Yeah, Coach Campbell talked about it a little bit after the game, and he wasn't sure exactly what it was, but he didn't sound like it was something long term. Hopefully, so hopefully Ragnow is back because he is so important for that offensive line, and if he's out, then you're probably going to have to move Glasgow into play center, and then play somebody at right guard that either Awashika or Sorsdahl, who have at times been pretty decent, but at times been not very good at all.
Well, we saw today that once Glasgow got moved over, there were a couple of plays where the right tackle position did not hold up as well. But I don't know if I'm wrong on this observation, but I feel like if we're going to have somebody out, if we're having somebody fill in, I'd almost rather have them filling in the right guard position than the left guard position. I feel like having Jonah Jackson at the left guard, maybe Owasika or Sorsdale are just a little bit more comfortable on that right side.
Yeah, I think Sorsdal played right tackle in college, so I'm going to guess that right guard is probably a little bit more natural for him than left guard.
Right.
So hopefully that is the case. And when he's played right guard, he's been all right. When he's been forced to play left, he didn't look very good. So that could very well be the case.
Another thing that I guess has concerns for me, or I just didn't care for, is we've seen it a lot, and that is on 3rd and long, teams are completing first down passes or getting first downs at a higher rate than I think they probably should. I know it happened at least twice, if not 3 times on 3rd and long. One was that roughing the passer penalty, but 2 other ones, there were some passes and it was, they found the hole in the coverage, or I think the other one's a fortuitous bounce. But there were at least, I think, 3 3rd and longs that the Saints converted. And that's just like, man, you're about to get off the field. The odds are against them for completing it, and somehow they find a way. And that just kind of crushes your spirit a little bit.
Yeah, the Lions did that to them a little bit though too. But yeah, it is a concern. The defense as a whole, I think, is a concern. Um, they definitely need to tighten some stuff up there. I heard some people saying that they should go out and sign Marcus Peters because the Raiders just released him just at least for a depth piece at corner. Because if behind Sutton and Jacobs, there's not a whole lot there at corner. Maybe you get CJ Gardner-Johnson back here in a week or two. But he's not a pure corner necessarily either. He's more of a nickel corner and safety.
True. And I do really hope we get him back because even though, like you said, where the position is he plays, his presence, I think, will be a big help in the secondary, even if they're just rotating through and he's not a full-time starter or something. Just having that extra element back there because we don't have a lot of depth back there. And, I appreciate the effort that Sutton and Jacobs are putting out there because there's a drop-off after those guys.
Yeah, for sure. We've only seen Stephen Gilmore in a pretty limited capacity. So, maybe if he has to play a little bit more, maybe he could show something. But, we don't really know what he's got outside of preseason work in the second half against guys who aren't probably in the league anymore.
Well, I would say one other thing that concerned me was that the Lions went away from the run a bit because they were up and they were running the ball pretty well. And then I want to say it might have been still in the first quarter. They went 3 and out, and it was like 3 pass plays in a row. And I don't know if it was, the coverage dictated they go that route because the Lions are such a balanced team on offense that if another team gives you a look to take something away, both assets are strengths, right? The run game's a strength, the passing game's a strength. So you don't want to fault them too much for that. And it seemed like there were some points where the running game wasn't going, but they still ran for, I think, was it 142 yards in this game? I mean, it was some good running by the Lions, a good ground game. So I guess I was just hoping to see more running because I know that's what they want to do, but also some different things got dictated. I mean, when you have an offensive line injury go down as well, that also could play into it. But they already started making those adjustments before the injury happened.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed to see them go away from the run as much as they did. And like you said, I think it had to have been just kind of something with adjusting to something that the defense was giving them because it was so successful and Campbell likes running the ball so much that it would just be kind of mind-boggling to go away from that completely, especially with the lead, and wanting to run clock on the road. So there had to have been something there that the defense was giving them that they saw, and this was, thinking this is the way that we got to go because this is what we got.
Well, let's turn to a turning point or pivotal moments. The one that jumped out the most to me early was end of the third quarter. The Lions are leading 24-21. And we had it 4th and 4. And I want to say we were around their 14-yard line. I forget. Could have been the 9-yard line. And the Lions didn't go for it. They kicked a field goal. And they went up 6 points. And right away I was like, well, that's obviously the right call. Like it made sense to me right away. It's like, hey, make it so that they need a touchdown. And if they get a touchdown, you're still within one score versus going for it on 4th and 4. I got some text messages like, I hope the Lions go for it. They should go for it. And I'm like, I didn't think so. And I loved this is why I like Dan Campbell so much. You hear the announcers during the games like, oh, you never know. He could do a fake punt here. Oh, the Lions like to go for it. I mean, as soon as they lined up to go for it, I didn't think they were going for it. I think they were trying to draw them off sides. And this was smart coaching. And that's the thing I love about the coaching staff is they seem to learn from their mistakes and they seem to be a little bit ahead of a few others. And people will, contradict or call them out like, why did you do this play? It's not perfect, but that was great. And that was pivotal because then like the next offensive play was the fumble and then the Lions get a touchdown. And so now they're up 12. I mean, that was such a great play to not be overly aggressive, I thought, and play the math.
But yeah, I like the call, and I could kind of see it coming when they were gonna not snap it and actually run a play. When they started putting so many guys in motion and stuff, it's kind of a little bit of a giveaway that you're not gonna snap the ball. But you can also use that to set something up later. Everything goes on film. Everything could be used to set something up down the road.
Exactly. Great point. Yeah, and you're exactly right on that. I mean, teams are scouting you, and they're going to look at all your last stuff to try and figure out what you're going to do. But yeah, so I presume, I mean, the way it all worked out, you probably felt pretty good about going for the field goal.
Oh yeah, for sure. And especially on the road, you play a little bit more conservatively on the road, even though you're the favorite, like the Lions were, and especially with the lead already there. So.
I want to throw another pivotal moment out here that I thought was huge, and if you've got any, would love to hear yours. I'm going to go to the other one. 1:54 left in the game, 3rd down and 9. Okay, you can run the ball up the middle and take 45 seconds off this clock, and if you don't get the first down, you can punt it with about 1:05, 1:09, something like that on the clock. But the Lions, they went for the win. They look back at the Green Bay game in Lambeau last year. They went for the win. That was a 4th down play, right? This was 3rd and 9. And so Goff was pressured. He wasn't sitting there comfortable. He got hit as he threw it. Josh Reynolds had 1 catch in this game, but that was a heck of an important catch. A 1st down, game over. Play call, execution. I loved it, and that was pivotal.
Yeah, and I think they kind of caught New Orleans in maybe a bit of a run defense, expecting that the Lions were going to run there, and so I think again they maybe said, "Hey, we're going to take what they're going to give us. If they're going to stack the line, then and play a lot of their big guys, then we're going to go down the field on them, and that totally worked out."
Were there any other pivotal moments? I mean, I went first and I took like the 2 big ones. So like, I'm not, I kind of took those, but was there something you saw that stood out that I didn't mention?
I mean, capitalizing off of turnovers was getting big, was big. Just coming out of the gate early.
Yeah.
And just getting that lead, establishing the lead, even though they kind of let them back in it, getting that 21-0 lead kind of lets them know who's in control in that game. Even though the Lions lost the control a little bit, that was a voluntary thing to an extent, letting their foot off the gas. So I don't think that the Saints necessarily played their way into the game as much as the Lions kind of let them play their way into the game by just kind of playing the percentages and the win percentages and all that, and figuring all we got to do is not turn the ball over here in the second half and play at least okay defense and make them burn clock, and we can go home with a win. It's not the way I would prefer things to go, and it's the way a lot of NFL coaches go. I mean, I would just rather just keep scoring touchdowns, dude.
Well, the good news is records actually matter in the NFL. So we don't have to worry about the Florida State factor. We don't have to care if it's pretty or ugly. As long as we win games, the Detroit Lions, that's all that matters. I mean, yeah, would it be nice to win like Michigan did against Iowa? Sure. But in the NFL, the level of competition is much higher than it is in different across college football. I'm not throwing shade at Iowa there. You know, they're a solid Big Ten team, but the Big Ten's down a little bit this year. They're a little top heavy, and then after that, there were some struggles. So, and I'm going to agree with Campbell. A win is a win. You're going to celebrate it. Let's look at the major storylines coming out of this. The Lions are 9-3, heading to Chicago. And here's an interesting one that they said on television. The Lions have now won 6 straight times coming off of a loss. That is impressive.
Yeah, to not lose back to back is pretty crucial in the NFL. Not to get on just like a bad streak. I mean, you can have some bad skids in games, you know, and you can say the last month for the defense has not been great, but they've won 3 out of those last 4 games.
Yeah. Hey, guys, we're not playing well. Everyone's critiquing us, but we've won 75% in the last month. You're exactly right. And yeah, there is always room for improvement, but it's a little bit easier to handle when you're not losing 3 out of 4.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, yeah, being 9-3, they're pulling within a game of the Eagles, who, you know, lost to the 49ers pretty convincingly. And you know, so you pull within a game of them for the number 1 seed in the NFC, and I think the number 1 seed in the NFC would be a really nice bonus, because it would put you in a position where you only have to play one of San Francisco or Philadelphia instead of having to play both of them. Your ultimate goal.
Well, this is where you and I have I mean, I don't disagree with that. That would be amazing. But I guess maybe your expectations or your hopes are loftier than mine. I was hoping that the Eagles would beat the 49ers because I just want that number 2 seed. And now, though, I mean, the good thing is whoever lost it was going to help us. Now the Eagles have a 1-game lead over San Francisco and Detroit. But the truth of the matter is, I mean, the Lions have to win before any of those other things matter. We're 9-3 going to Chicago, and then we're home against Denver. And we got 5 games left, and none of those games are going to be as easy as we thought they would 2 months ago. If the Lions can somehow pull off a 2 seed, I would maybe try and do a backflip if I wasn't as old as I am. But that would be a heck of a coup, if you will. If we pull off the 2 seed, that's really nice, because that means you win that first game, you're home again for the second one versus likely traveling to either Philadelphia or San Francisco.
Yeah, true. And even if they got the number 1 seed, you're looking at probably your number 4 seed is going to be Dallas. That's not going to be an easy one either.
That's a great point. Yeah, Dallas will be that 4 seed, and then the 5-6 seed Dallas will be the 5 seed, and then the 6-7 seed would either be, like right now, the Rams could be one of those teams. There's a chance the Rams could come to Ford Field for a playoff game.
Yeah, the Packers could make the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the return of Matthew Stafford to Ford Field for a playoff game. Like, that would just be kind of, I don't know, almost, is poetic the right word? It would be very interesting.
I think it would be.
So
yeah, half this team guys that were acquired via the draft picks they got for Matthew Stafford.
And that would be interesting. Yeah, you know what? The whole wild card thing, the number 6 and 7 spots in the NFC has really opened up in the last 2 weeks. You thought it was a done deal with Seattle and Minnesota, but the Packers, the Rams, it's open. So that'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. Any other expectations, thoughts of the Lions or where you're seeing them going forward right now?
Well, I like that they got Jameson Williams involved early. We've talked about this a bunch of times, but just flashing his speed and how fast he is with the ball has got to just put a chill in opposing defensive coordinators, and just showing them what kind of a weapon he is. Even if they're not going to force feed him the ball 6 or 7 times in a game, you know that he only needs to touch the ball once or twice in a game to completely change the outcome of that game. It was good to see that they had a game where the offense did well when Amon-Ra St. Brown only had 2 catches.
Yeah, and with Jameson there, I mean, you also had Montgomery and Gibbs on the field at the same time, and it was a pass play. And so you're absolutely right with the factor of all 3 of those guys and what it must do to a defensive coordinator, that, you know what, even if J-Mo's not touching the ball on that exact play, they still have to account for him. And so I don't think we've seen the best out of this offense yet. And we're talking about a top 5, top 6 offense in the NFL.
I think so. To get everything going at the same time, they haven't done that yet. You know, and the defense, you got to hope that gets better. You know, Irvin, hopefully a piece of that. Maybe Gardner Johnson, maybe James Houston farther down the road. You know, Bohannon adds an element there. When they signed him, the first thing that I thought when they signed a 360-pound defensive tackle was they are already thinking about the Eagles in the playoffs and somebody who can stop the tush push.
The brotherly shove. Yeah. That, I mean, seems like a prototypical guy for it. And he's making that presence felt. He's earning playing time, and he's not just earning playing time. He's actually producing when he plays. One I want to bring up, which surprised me, we talked about the receiver room quite a bit. A name we haven't really mentioned is a guy the Lions traded for, Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's kind of been quiet. I mean, quite quiet. I don't think he's got a catch yet as a Lions receiver.
I think he might have had one last week, but yeah,
Okay.
he hasn't done a whole lot. They targeted him once this week that I saw, and that was on a play that was one of the ones in the end zone that was almost intercepted.
Okay. So you know what? And again, he was brought in as a depth piece. And that's what you got to remember. Yeah. We're not looking at for him to be our 1, 2, 3, or 4 guy even. We've got guys in there that are established. I mean, Josh Reynolds had one catch, but it was a huge, crucial catch. And it's a guy that's trusted with Goff. So again, you know, those of you who are concerned about Peoples-Jones, he's a depth piece, and he's there if we need him or if he develops into something, but not someone that we're counting on. James, a couple other things I want to mention before we get out of here. We're working on a new logo for the podcast. Hoping to have that out in the next couple of weeks. So wanted to give people a heads up. Don't be confused. It's all the same content, just updating the look a little bit that we've been rocking since we originated, and just want to make a couple adjustments to that. And I want to give a shout out to A Great Story Podcast. It's a podcast. It's got Chad Toms, Rich Schultz, and Phil Repune. I may have gotten Phil's last name wrong there, but they run a podcast. They interview interesting people from around the state and maybe even outside the state. I was fortunate enough to be a guest on their show recently, and you know they've interviewed people like Andy Dirks and Ray Lane, and just they tell interesting stories about people. And just want to let you know, check it out if you get a chance. It's called A Great Story Podcast. So want to mention that to you guys. We're running out of time here, James. But it's amazing to be 9-3 at this point. You got some final thoughts as we wrap up this show?
Hopefully next week it's 10-3.
I like the way you count.
It's that's the ultimate goal there. You know, they got the Bears, and then you know they got the Broncos. The Broncos looked pretty decent today, although they lost. And then they've got that stretch to end the season where it's Vikings, Cowboys, Vikings.
And that Broncos game is going to be prime time on Saturday night. Maybe we should go to the game.
Yeah, I think I'm going to.
I think I'm going to too. It's going to be, I expect a pretty good crowd.
Mm-hmm. I might even get there early, do a little tailgating.
Sounds good. Well, James, thanks so much for joining the show. I appreciate it as always.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
And folks, thank you so much for tuning in. You can find all the episodes at notthesameoldlions.com. If you're listening and looking for us on YouTube, remember we're switching over to the podcast area, so look for us there. Please hit the like button. While you're at it, tell your friends about the show. Please subscribe regardless of your listening platform. And until next time, stay gritty, my friends.